All right, have and have not fans. Now, first off, I'm sorry for the delay in videos. Number one, the own YouTube channel for whatever reason was down for maybe the last 24 to 36 hours, and they hadn't uploaded the trailer for next week's episode. Luckily, A Series sent me the trailer on Instagram, so my trailer breakdown will be the next video I do. But this video is going to be the one that people requested more than anything else. Yes, even the video to do about who is Charles kicking out of the car next week. Who is he saying I'm done with you to? Is it Landon or Candace? That video is coming soon. But with this video, more people were asking me, Jeremy, who do you think stabbed Benny? And yes, this video is a day late because my computer, for whatever reason, had like 1,000 updates, so it kept restarting various periods of the day, so I wasn't able to record. So it is 4 a.m. on Thursday, and here I am recording this. But a simple video. I'm going to have it, one picture. Benny's going to be in the middle, and on each side to his left and right will be the pictures of the alleged, I guess you could say, suspects for who stabbed him. Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to be completely honest, I said this in a few of my live streams already, I've done videos on practically everyone who I suspect to be the person that is responsible for what happened to Benny. More often than not, it's a situation where the person that shot him, and I say shot because at the time I thought it was a shooting, it was somebody that would have been hired by Jim, hired by Veronica. So really, when I look at the list of suspects, and I'm just going to list them off here: Laquita or Quita, Veronica, Jim, the Malones, Charles/Landon, or as somebody pointed out in the live stream, what if it was Malik? Now, looking at these suspects, I have to admit, in terms of dialogue from the last episode, Battle for the Past, I think Jim, and I'm going to rank him here, I think Jim would be number one. Veronica would be number two. Charles/Landon, and I really don't want to differentiate the two because I just feel like being from the same camp, the motives would be somewhat similar, but kind of opposite at the same time. But I'll get more into that later. They will be number three. The Malones, I would put them at Quita will be number four. The Malone's number five, and then Malik number six. So just to run down through it again, in terms from order of most likely to least likely, Jim number one, Veronica number two, Charles Landon number three, number four is Quita or Laquita, number five is Malone, and six is Malik. Now, when you think about who stabbed Benny, let's go over what he told Mitch in the hospital. And he got up strangely after having surgery, being able to move around and talk and whatnot. He was saying, I was just sitting on the porch, minding my own business. There was this boys, and yes, some people were saying, well, he said boys, and then he said one boy got on him and stabbed him. But I was looking at the scene multiple times. I looked at captions, and yes, captions can be wrong sometimes, so I did listen carefully as well. Benny's dialogue was kind of jumbled, like, in terms of like pronouns, singular, plural. And no, I'm not a grammar Nazi, but in terms of trying to dissect what he was saying, some of the words weren't lining up. I think even Veronica called him out on that at one point. It's like, if I wanted a man to make my husband jealous, I would get someone who would know how to pronounce and enunciate his words and whatnot. So I'm just like, yeah, this is standard for Benny. So let's just put it this way. When it comes down to it, the basis of the story is I was sitting out on the porch, minding my business. There were this boys circling around, I'm guessing on bikes. I don't even think Benny said bikes. He just said circling around, and he didn't pay much mind to it. He was on his phone. Next thing you know, one of them's on top of him. He gets stabbed in the side, and that's it. And yeah, as Mitch said, it's not my family. We don't do that. Riding around on bikes and stabbing people? Now, when it comes to the Malone stabbing, the only time I can really think of it is when Sal Malone was in Wyatt's jail cell, and he had like that blade underneath his tongue, which makes sense because he wouldn't have access to a gun in that scenario. So that's why Sal had that thing under his mouth or his tongue, that blade, and what if, slash Wyatt's throat or something. So when it comes down to it, I think that, okay, everybody has a motive. When it comes down to it, you have to think who would be the most likely to gain from putting Benny in the hospital or allegedly killing him. Now, looking at Malik, the reason he's number 6 is because of the fact that he is dead. However, Tyler Perry, I mean, when you think about Veronica falling from that great a distance from the balcony to the floor, even with the boxes breaking her fall, all she had was tense muscles without so much as a broken bone, and she's back at home as if nothing ever happened. True, she does seem a bit out of it and does have a heating pad, but at the same time, it's plot armor, so Tyler Perry can bring someone back to life or have them survive a nearly impossible situation if he so desires. Now, I cannot remember, but if I'm not mistaken, I think that Malik ran out of the house with the knife in his shoulder, the one that Hannah stabbed him with. I cannot remember, but for the sake of simplicity, it would be kind of the weird irony if, let's say, for whatever reason, Malik somehow with superhuman strength and endurance and the ability to move around even after losing so much blood was able to escape from the back of a burning van, because remember, Candace set the van on fire, and make his way back to Hannah and Candace's house and then stab Benny on the front stoop, even though it wouldn't make much sense for him to just stab Benny when Benny wasn't even there or the one that actually stabbed him, I guess. Which doesn't make sense. But, I mean, in terms of shock factor, surprise, it would make sense. But think about it this way. I don't think Malik will be pulling a Debo and just riding his bicycle around in circles. I mean, the dude is dark complexion, so technically it would be hard to see him at night. But all jokes aside, I do not think it was Malik. Then we go to number 5, which is the Malones. The reason the Malones aren't technically the Malones would be at the bottom of this list if Malik didn't pop up in conversation. I think the Malones, number one, I was saying this during the brief hiatus for the past 2 months. It seems too obvious that the Malones did it, but Tyler Perry always likes to insert a twist. And the fact that it was just a stabbing instead of a shooting or anything to make sure he was dead actually makes sense as it not being the Malones, plus Mitch pretty much confirming that really isn't his family style, which is something he would actually know. Yeah, it wasn't the Malones. Number 4, Quita. Quita does sound like a viable option because, the fact that Candace did kick her ass in jail, not to mention, she would have a vendetta against Benny because Benny was the one that burst into her apartment, got Quincy Jr. and left. And not to mention, it will be like an eye for an eye, so to speak, like, hey, you killed my brother, so I want to kill your brother. And kind of ironic, with Quincy being killed by multiple stab wounds and then to have one stab on Benny, even though it missed all vital areas and organs. That was not an efficient job, so not to be, stereotypical, it sounds like something a black person would do, not make sure the job is done. And, as a black person, that was kind of awkward, but I'm kind of sleepy, so, hey, the jokes are not 100% right now. But, there would be motive. Then we get to number 3, which is Charles and Landon. And once again, I would definitely, I ought to make a playlist called, Who Stabbed Benny, because I feel like I've done at least half a dozen videos. And I've already done videos about Charles and Landon in regards to what would they have to gain from it. With Charles, it'll be like, well, he wasn't against letting Benny take the fall for the Quincy Maxwell murder if it meant Candace would come with him. So, getting rid of Benny would be getting rid of competition in regards of, cutting loose all of Candace's ties to her hometown, making it easier for Charles to have her come with him. I think it's the best way to put it. There will be no loose ends to hold Candace back. On the Landon side, the same rules could apply. Like, hey, let's eliminate Benny in order to make it easier for Candace to be with Charles, because, Landon is pretty much in a position to do anything that Charles wants. That's kind of awkward because we know that Landon loves Charles. But, maybe it could be orchestrated where, okay, if Benny is in a critical condition or something like that, let's make sure we don't kill him, but make sure he's in the hospital or something long enough where Candace refuses to leave his side, meaning that Charles won't be able to take her to the White House. So really the Charles Landon thing is kind of parallel, where one would be getting rid of Benny to bring Candace closer to them, while one would be taking out Benny to make Candace stay with him in order to not come with Charles. And then we move to number 2. Veronica, this is just a simple thing. She did say she would try to get back at Hannah because she blames her for what happened to Melissa. Then, Veronica was already pissed at Benny for the whole Melissa thing, like, having sex on her couch with her son's fiance, technically, quote unquote, cheating on her, so to speak. And then, just basically taking out her anger on David, on any man she feels has wronged her. So that would be another reason why it could be reasonable that Veronica had something to do with what happened to Benny. And then we move to number 1, which is Jim. Same thing, Benny basically refusing to give the millions of dollars back to the Criers. As Jim said, if I can't threaten your son, I'll threaten you. But, at the same time, one can make the argument that, well, if Jim sent someone over to the house to take care of Benny, that's what he did. But it doesn't really make sense, because if Benny is the one that's needed to sign the money over, killing him would make no sense at all. But, that's stipulations here. And not to mention, based off dialogue from what he was telling Broderick when he was literally grabbing him by the balls, he was like, I have some friends in some unsavory low places, but they can come up to this height in order to cut you, which is ironic since Benny was cut or stabbed. So that's really why I rank these characters in that specific order, to pretty much determine who is the person that stabbed Benny. And I'm also going to throw another person out there, and I'm not saying that this person is a prime suspect, but in the matter of who would gain something from Benny possibly dying or being completely taken out of the picture, coma or being in the hospital for an entire season, Tony still doesn't have a kidney that we know of, and as far as I know, Tony is not coming back to the show anytime soon. So, well, we just don't know yet. So in any case, I feel like when it comes down to suspects, Jim seemingly is the most likely suspect, and given the fact that Hannah is going to slap the piss out of him in a future episode, I'm guessing that Jim says something just to get under Hannah's skin, pretty much saying, oh, well, I heard about your son, and this is what he gets for, not giving the money back. I guess you could say I had to cut my losses, so I could see Hannah slapping him because of that. And also, I mean, when you think about the whole scenario where Quincy Jr. got shot, then Jim was rubbing it in Candace's face, pretty much hinting at the thought that he was the one that hired someone in order to shoot Quincy Jr. so accurately in order to miss Hannah. So Jim has a way of rubbing salt on a wound, no pun intended, but it's unknown whether or not he's actually the one that did the dirty deed. So I don't know what to say that I haven't said already. And I don't want this video to come across as lazy. I mean, we already are like 12 minutes in, and I have given evidence on every single candidate as to who actually committed the deed. But one thing that people need to remember, and I know this show is inconsistent at times and things don't make sense and things just happen for the sake of plot. So even when we overthink things, it turns out that Tyler Perry wrote, it's like, well, wait, wasn't that truck blue in episode 3 of season 4? Why is it red now? I know that is a dumb example, but that's all I can think of at this late hour. But here's my thing. Really, there are 2 questions to ask when it comes to Benny. Number 1, who would gain from attempting to kill Benny? I mean, this is kind of random, but I don't think Benny said his phone was gone. So do you think that he was stabbed just because somebody happened to want his phone? I mean, we do know his box of belongings was right there next to him when he was on the stoop, if memory serves. So I doubt that was a factor in it. So also, who would get, aside from who would gain something, aside from like revenge or something along those lines, one must also ask the question, who knows where Hannah lives? Who knows where Hannah lives? I mean, you have to make the assumption that whoever was sent there to take out Benny may have been there for the sake of getting back at Hannah, or just simply, getting back at Hannah any way they can, whether it's through her or through her children. Now, based off the suspects, we know for a fact that, as far as I know, Laquita does not know where Hannah currently lives. And one thing to also remember is this isn't the ghetto or the other side of the tracks or the haves nots region of Savannah. Even when Veronica showed up to the house for Melissa, it's like, oh, little Hannah, Miss Hannah, you done come up, haven't you? Pretty much giving hints at the fact that this is a upper class neighborhood. This isn't something that, well, for lack of a better phrase, the have-nots would just randomly be strolling their way to. It's something that, hey, this is the upper side of town. Most lower class people wouldn't be seen in this area unless they're visiting someone or something along those lines. So I don't think Quita is a likely top tier suspect. Now, in no particular order here, I'm just going to go through the list. Now, Malik, if he did somehow survive and then decided to roll around on some bicycle, I don't know. He does know where the location is because, well, he arrived there. Not to mention, one could also make the assumption that, number one, RK was the one that hired Malik, so we really don't know that much about him, but we do know that he is aware of who Hannah is. Number two, keep in mind that Candace told RK to contact Malik's baby mama just to let him know what was going down, and he said he would handle it, and that was done off screen. We don't know the information that RK gave this woman. Did she get told, like, hey, Malik had a job at this such and such address? I don't know. We don't know. So one could assume, what if Malik's baby mama sent someone to get revenge? That just seems way too far-fetched. So Malik, even though he does know the location, I just think it's way too random for, him to either still be alive and then send people over there. So he did say, if your daughter doesn't have the money, I'm going to come back and kill you. Malik, no, just no. The Malones are the Malones, so they can figure out wherever, whoever, whenever. So I just feel like, with their resources, they could find out where Hannah and Benny were staying. Let's see here. Charles and Landon, the same rules apply. With their security and background abilities, they would know. Obviously, Veronica knows because she was there, and Jim was there as well at one point. So, yes. 1, 2, not counting Malik, 4 out of the 5 remaining suspects know where they live. That's pretty much as plain as day there. But I think that whoever did it probably did it to send a message, because a stabbing that was non-lethal, I mean, technically speaking, if Hannah didn't find Benny when she did, it was most likely he would have bled out or something. It just doesn't seem, well, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. And this isn't my insomnia talking. It's just that I'm trying to figure out. It seems to me like Benny being stabbed was more about sending a message than actually killing him. Who knows? I mean, yeah, you can make the argument, well, didn't Candace say she was going to send somebody over to Hannah's house every night until the money was given to her? True, but at that point, it seemed like she actually gave up on it. And then when it comes to Veronica, that's my problem with a lot of things that happen off screen we don't know. I feel like Veronica was way too preoccupied with other matters to even deal with Hannah at that point. Same thing with Jim. He was more concerned about the whole Sarah thing and the bullets and the whole Catherine and Broderick scenario. So I feel like he was too preoccupied. In regards to the people who were actively looking for Benny, it was Malik. And then you could also argue that Charles was definitely at the stage where he was trying to do everything he could in order to get Candace to come with him, because at that point, she wasn't even giving him the time of day. So I feel like as of right now, Jim is the likely suspect, and I feel like he might be the one that's to blame for it. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is possible that maybe he isn't the one that did it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This video, I apologize if it came off as if this was going to answer the question. But if you've been on the channel long enough, you know for a fact that I try to present all the information on all suspects if it's a big enough mystery. But if there's someone who I truly feel is the suspect, then I will try to ram it down your throats. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you think stabbed Benny? Now, one last time in ranking from most likely to least likely, I have Jim, Veronica, Charles / Landon, Quita, the Malones, and Malik. So in the comments below, if you feel like you have the answer and it's like, hey, this is my suspect and I'm sticking with it, go ahead and explain why. If you wanted to give me your order of these 6/7 suspects, let me know. But with that being said, Benny, I hope if he is, well, he is going home. I hope he finally takes Mitch's and everybody else's advice and decides to lie low, not go out. And I really wonder whether or not he's actually going to give the money back to the criers, because he did ask Hannah, well, can I come home? And she said yes. And I'm honestly surprised that, well, then again, given the circumstances, I could probably see why she didn't say anything about the money at that point in time, because she was more concerned about her son being alive instead of the money. But then again, we do know in the next episode she asked Derek to stay in her bed and whatnot. And I'm hoping that, with Benny there, he's up in his room and doesn't interrupt the two. I know that sounds awkward, but I'm more interested in whether or not the lion tattoo comes up. But we'll just have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below in regards to this. Whoever stabbed Benny, do you think they'll come back and finish the job? Do you think this was just to send a message? And we'll just have to go from there. And I'm also going to throw one last thing in there. It might seem a bit unknown, but what do you think is going to happen when Mitch has that conversation with Candace at the Iron Bone bar, when Candace is there and Mitch says, so do you really want to know what happened to your brother? Just the serious way he said it, it just has me thinking that Mitch knows or had found out what happened to Benny. And he knows the answer to that scenario as to what happened to Benny would be something that would rock Candace's foundation to the core. So, I mean, one could argue that Mitch is just simply going to tell the entire story about how Benny got the tow yard. Excuse me. Why Benny took the $45,000 for the tow truck, leading to the whole thing with his family, yada, yada, yada. But I am willing to bet that if the Malones didn't do it, perhaps a Malone showed up to the spot, saw what went down, and then assumed that Benny was dead because he got stabbed. That's a possibility there. And then Mitch asked his family about what went down, and then they relay the message to him, and it's like, hey, so and so did this. And then Mitch might put two and two together and then find out that, oh, I know who did it. Then he tells Candace, and that leads to a bigger story. So I'm thinking that in terms of shock factor, because just look at the way Mitch was, go back and watch the episode, the beginning scenes. You could just tell by the way Mitch was reacting to Charles and Candace strolling in there that, he couldn't even believe what he was seeing. So I can imagine that if he found out that Charles or somebody from his team had something to do with what happened to Benny, it would tear Candace up. So once again, folks, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I do like the fact that we have yet another mystery. Well, which is a good and bad thing, because there's way too many mysteries and storylines that have yet to be resolved. And then we add another thing in there. But I do feel like this was something that is interesting, because there are a lot of possible suspects. So thumbs up for the video, comment your thoughts. I really hope this video gets a lot of comments, because I feel like this is definitely a good topic of discussion. But aside from this video, the main ones I want to do is my trailer breakdown. That will come in a, probably, this weekend. I don't believe we're supposed to get snow, so hopefully Wi-Fi will be good for me to record and everything. But yeah, just a quick thank you to everybody for the support on the channel. I do like how my episode review already has passed 5,000 plus views, a lot of comments, and like I said, I might actually do a video going over why Battle for the Past was a disappointing episode. There are a lot of things that made zero sense, but this mystery, something worth talking about. So once again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you're new to the channel, if this is your first time here, this is what we do. It's called the Haves and Have-Nots review for a reason. We don't play full episodes. We go over the episodes, talk about theories, and other works that Tyler Perry is doing. So be sure to subscribe, help us hit 100,000 subscribers, and tell your friends and family who are fans of Tyler Perry and the Haves and Have-Nots to check out the channel, and I hope I'll see you soon. Congratulations on making it to the end of this video. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that thumbs up button as well as leaving your thoughts in the comment section below so we can keep the conversation going. On the left hand side of the screen, you should see a picture of Jeffrey Harrington. You can click on him in order to subscribe, but also hit the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out on any new content. Also, you should see some videos appearing on the screen as well that I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy if you enjoyed the one you just saw. But also, be sure to follow me on social media such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Links to all my social media will be in the description below. And in order to help this channel hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to need your help. So make sure to share this video as well as the channel around with all of your friends on your own social media. But once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video.